Hello everyone, I'm very happy to be here with you today. And today I would like to talk about the most common misconceptions that exist in our fabulous profession. This subject has never been as topical as it is now. In fact, the last few months we have all been shaken. We have had to questioning ourselves and get out of our comfort zone. We have had to unlearn the old ways of doing things in order to relearn new ones. For example, where we thought that learning was only possible by going to a training room and being assisted by a trainer, we realized that training also possible was without having to leave home thanks to the online training courses. These also offer an enormous flexibility when you have a busy professional agenda. Where we thought that our financial income depended solely on the treatments we provided, we realized how selling products could become an equally important financial return. Previously, when we wanted to announce something to our customers, we sent text messages. Now we make a video on Instagram or TikTok. All this to tell you that life is a constant learning process, which requires us to learn, then unlearn by questioning oneself, daring to ask the question, is what I know still right? And to relearn by up-to-date training. You have to be able to forget what you think you know in order to be able to relearn what you need to know to evolve and succeed. Let's now unlearn and relearn together. I would like to share with you 5 common misconceptions that many experienced nail technicians believe. First misconception. It is best for the natural nail to prepare it with a nail file or buffer. You already know that the ideal grit for preparing natural nails for gel treatments is the 180 grit. But the tool you use for the 180 grit is essential for a good long-lasting result. You might think that using a file or a buffer is safer and that you cannot damage the natural nail. Well, no. The file is a tool that we love to use and that is ideal for filing nails into shapes. But when it comes to preparing the nail plate, it is really not the right tool to use. Why? First of all, a file, whatever type or shape, even if it is rounded like banana or half moon files, is too wide to allow you to work with precision on the nail and to get closer to the cuticle area without damaging and injuring your client's cuticles. Also, as it is a tool that you assume is harmless, you will not hesitate to file several times over the same places on critical areas for good adhesion, such as the sides and the cuticle area. And without realizing it, the nail will be excessively filed, so it will become thinner, more flexible, and the product adhesion will be reduced. We must also avoid using a buffer, no matter how much we love to use it. Why? Because any grain placed on a foam material has a finishing touch purpose and not a nail preparation purpose. The buffers will certainly mattify the nail plate, but they will also smoothen it, which will not allow a long-lasting adhesion for gel nails. Preparing the natural nail with the sander is the best, the most efficient, the most precise, and the fastest way to prep the natural nail for gel nails. And the best tool to use is a rubber bit with a disposable fine white quartz sander, which has a 180 grit. This is a single-use tool, so you will use a new sander for each client, which also guarantees a perfect hygiene for your clients. There, we come to the second misconception. Using a primer with acid is always better for adhesion. We may think that the more aggressive the primer or bonder that we use, the better the adhesion on the nails will be. No. To understand this, let me explain a little more about the primer. How do primers work? A primer works like a double-sided adhesive tape. One end of the primer's molecular chain perfectly matches the nail plate and forms a perfect bond with the keratin in the nail. The other end of the primer's molecular chain perfectly matches the monomer and polymer chain of the gel. This is how we get a nice bond between both nail and gel. A greasy nail still contains a grease residue on the nail plate which will need acid to be dissolved, so you will need an acid primer for this. If that grease is not removed, the primer cannot come into contact with the keratin in the nail, and then a nice bond cannot be created, so you will not have a good adhesion. Now, why is it not recommended to use an acid-based primer on any type of nail? Because acids are naturally aggressive and can cause sensitization in the long run. This could cause clients to develop acrylic allergies that could have been avoided with acid-free primers. And you know that once someone has developed an acrylic allergy, wearing gel nails can sometimes be gone for good. They may even develop other allergies and may not even tolerate nail polish. Also, the keratin structure of a dry nail is also negatively affected by using an overly aggressive acid-based primer. So don't do this. Always choose the primer in function of the natural nail. The acid-free primer for normal, dry and sensitive nails. The universal primer, which is acid-based, for greasy nails. This brings us to another misconception about primers. Adhesion is better when more primer is used. No, absolutely not. Now you know why it is important to use the right primer for the right type of nail. Equally important is to use the right amount of primer, because too much primer kills the grip. Have you ever seen your base gel retract? That's an important sign that you're using too much primer. If you are using an acid-based primer on your client with greasy nails, you may even see your base gel retract even before she puts her hand in the lamp. When you're using an acid-free primer, you won't even notice anything until your client takes her hand out of the lamp. Here again, the base gel can retract. And even if you cannot see it with the naked eye, the adhesion has been compromised. Why does too much primer cause poor adhesion? Well, first of all, let's look at the ideal primer layer. The ideal quantity of primer is what we call a monolayer. It's a single layer of primer molecules that on one side bonds to the keratin of the nail and on the other side bonds to the gel, just like a double-sided tape. If you use more primer than necessary, you get an oversaturated primer layer where the cohesion, which is the attraction between the same kind of molecules, so between the primer with itself, is greater than the adhesion, which is the attraction between different kinds of molecules, so between the primer and both the nail and the base gel. When you use too much primer, this may result in visible retraction of the base gel that you apply on top of the primer. If this is familiar to you, pay attention to how much primer you use. Let's continue with misconception number 4. The more I cure my gel, the better it is. If you ever ask your client to put her hand 2 or 3 times more under the curing lamp, you've done this out of fear of undercuring. If you are facing undercuring issues, then the light of your lamp simply does not match with the formula of your gel. In other words, the wavelength of the light from your lamp is either too long or too short to trigger the photoinitiator to start the curing process. In this case, just get the right lamp. Now, if you cure longer than the required curing time of the gel and proceed to excessive curing, it will result in accelerated gel wear and deterioration, which can cause yellowing, brittleness, and breakage. The last one, misconception number 5, the stress point is in the middle of the gel nail. Be careful. You might think that when applying a gel nail that the stress point is located right in the middle of the whole gel nail. But no, this is not the case. The stress point represents the nail area that will undergo all the shock waves and twist due to the client's activity. Regardless of the length of the nails, this area is always in the middle of the nail bed, so you will ignore the free edge. It is therefore this area that we must strengthen to avoid breakage, and of course, the longer the nail, the more product will be needed in this area. Afterwards, To keep a thin looking aesthetic, it will be important to gradually use less gel towards the end of the free edge. However, be careful when filing to not excessively file the laterals, otherwise you will immediately weaken your stress point protection. I hope you enjoyed this time together and I wish you the best for the future. Take care and see you soon!